All right, hello, wine drinking people. Today is Thursday, January 13th, and I hope you guys have enjoyed some of the new segments that we've had in the show. Wine Alert with Flavio, telling you all about the wine happenings, things that are going on in the wine business.
This is your wine alerts for today. In acquisition news, Banfi Vintners, owners of Castello Banfi, finalized a deal to purchase Washington State winery Pacific Rim. The brand specializes in wines that contain residual sugars, mainly Riesling and Gewürztraminer. Pacific Rim was a nominee in 2010 for Wine Enthusiast magazine's American Winery of the Year. The winemaker will remain with the winery through the sale. Ice wines, whose process requires early morning harvest and freezing temperatures, have long been expensive to produce. In an attempt to expand the ice wine market and introduce ice wine to a lower echelon consumer, makers of ice wines have begun freezing the grapes indoors. Indoor freezers help cut costs as harvest can occur earlier in the fall, and controlled conditions can keep ideal freezing temperatures. Purists and detractors believe that the wines will not be of the same quality, preaching that there is no substitute for nature. Lower-priced ice wines can allow wineries to expand their market to include less affluent customers. An archaeological team working on the southern border of Armenia discovered a cave being called the oldest winemaking facility. Dating back to 4100 BC, the remains found in the cave include grape seeds, a fermentation vat, a wine press, and other artifacts commonly used in winemaking. This is your wine alerts for today.
All right, well, you know what it's time for now, folks. What I had to drink yesterday, and actually we're going to combine 2 days in one magically because we had a long day. Actually, we've had a long week. We haven't had time to film this segment the last 2 days. So what did we have to drink yesterday? Well, last night, we had our Bordeaux tasting at the Tower Club, our very first event. And thank you, David Ford from Antares, and Ron Warshowski from Southern Wine and Spirits, and Charles X, and Jean Goyan from Roland de B. Thanks for hosting the event last night with me and pouring some great wines. We had about 20 wines, some great stuff on the table, from the dry whites of Bordeaux to the great red wines and the great sweet wines. Jean Goyan, when he saw this Lafaurie Peyraquey, he goes, this is Grand Cru Classé, He was surprised to see it at this tasting. His wine being a Medoc, and, unfortunately the Medocs will never get the respect that they deserve because the 1855 classification will never be changed. Well, other than for Mouton Rothschild, the Baron Philippe had his wine elevated from a second growth to a first growth in 73, but that's the only thing that's changed. But still, when you put these wines on the table, Lafaurie Peyraquey is, just a step below Chateau, or some people feel it's equal to it. And this was the buy of the night for me at this event. And I love sweet wines. We've got probably the greatest collection of sweet wines of any store with our geographic size in the world. And we bought the rest of this wine. You'll see it on offer coming out next week. Lafaurie Peyraquey 2006 at $39.60 for a full bottle. That is a steal. Anyways, all right, well, some great stuff. The 2007 Tesoro, one of my favorite dry whites from Bordeaux. All of the great Sauternes house also make a little bit of dry white, and the difference between this and the Pessac and the Graves is it is mostly Semillon instead of mostly Sauvignon Blanc in the blend. And the 2007 Tesoro, the Wine Watch, I think it's 14 cases that come into Florida. We're the only people that have this wine. Phenomenal, lots of layers of flavors, hints of flowers, hints of peach, apricot, and wonderful acidity. 07 was a great vintage for dry whites and for Sauternes, unlike the reds, which, not so much. Anyways, we had some great vintages on the table. We had 04, we had 05, we had 06. Hey, we had some 09s on the table last night. We had a 2000 vintage wine that Samard showed beautifully again. Some great stuff. Thanks again, everybody that came last night. Check out my reviews online on that Bordeaux tasting. All right, what else did I have to drink yesterday? Hey, we had Bob in the store, the man that spells his name forwards or backwards. Bob Daniels from Transatlantic, and some good stuff from him. And we had Leonardo Lacasio and the Allegrini joint venture here, the Poggio al Tesoro from Bolgheri. Some really nice stuff, these reds from Bolgheri, the Bordeaux varietals from this region producing some outstanding wines and some great values. This wine for mid-20s, a really nice bottle of wine, a blend of Syrah, Merlot, and Cabernet Sauvignon, the Mediterra, and bright forward black plum fruit and notes of dried tobacco, spice, and herbs in here, and really nice balance on this. Even though it was rich, still had some nice freshness on the finish, and cocoa and black spices, really nice. The Poggio Tesoro Sondria, which kind of the next level up in this lineup. Had a little bit more Cabernet Sauvignon in the blend. Big, really intense. Some licorice notes, cigar box spice. Very Bordeaux-like, but one of the things you notice from these wines from Bolgheri is that black earth. Really typical and distinct from Bolgheri, the earthy nuance that you get to these wines. This wine had a really long finish. My favorite of the three, even though it wasn't the most expensive. Hey, that's not always the case. The W, which is, this is named after Marissa's brother, who passed away after they started the project. This is their top wine. It's mostly Cabernet Franc and has this lovely, distinct black peppery and bell pepper note to the nose, but just didn't have the complexity of the Sangria, which really, to me, I should have been served last. Maybe if they would have showed this wine before the Sangria, it would have showed a little better. But sometimes they look at price and they think because it's more expensive, it's got to be better. Not necessarily the case. Well, Allegrini, one of the great value-oriented producers in Verona. Well, hey, the Amarone is expensive, but Amarone is expensive to make. They've got a line of wines like the Palazzo Della Torre, which is an incredible little value at right around $20 a bottle. Blend of Corvina, Rodinella, and these wines are partially dried like they do with Amarone, so you get some of the richness with that, but there's a little bit of Sangiovese supposedly in the blend here. That's what Bob said. I've never seen Sangiovese in Verona, but I guess some people grow Cabernet and Merlot and other things there, so it could be possible. We will look into that for you. All right, but hints of that clay-like minerality that you get from these wines from Verona, and lovely balance and good freshness. A light red wine, even though it had a lot of intensity, still light on the finish. The La Grolla, which is another super Veronese type blend, not a DOC or DOCG wine. Amarone is a DOCG now. Wow, elevation. That just got elevated this year. One of my favorite wines in Italy was not a DOCG until this year. Actually, the Amarone and Policello were both DOCs until just a few months ago. All right. Well, this wine had a lovely, pretty bouquet of fresh flowers and sun-dried black cherries, plums, and a little bit of orange peel in there also. Really nice. Had that lovely freshness, but quite a bit heavier, more intense than the Palazzo della Torre, this La Grolla wine. All right, next up, these two also have a property in Montalcino together. All right, so another collaboration between Leonardo and Marilisa. From Allegrini Vineyards. And this is a little Montalcino, just an IGT wine. Lovely light red strawberry fruit here, the San Paolo Rubio, and nose of kind of fresh soy and fresh plowed earth. Nice amount of red berry fruit on the tongue, light and inoffensive, a really easy quaffer for a red wine. Sangiovese can be a nice choice for a light red. The Rosso di Montalcino had a fair amount of kind of dried mushroom and also tobacco nuance to it, but also pretty nice for Rosso di Montalcino. The Baby Brunello 07, a great vintage for Montalcino. And then the Mezzopane. Mezzopane? That sounds like some kind of weird drug, but Sant'Antimo, an area just to the south and to the east of Montalcino. This wine is Merlot and Sangiovese, and a lot of great Merlot coming out of Tuscany today. Hey, Macedo, you think these guys had something going here? A lot of people starting to plant Merlot. It kind of lends itself to Sangiovese blends really nicely, making the wines a little more forward and approachable. Lovely, plump, ripe, jammy fruit here, and nose of fresh plowed black earth truffles. Fairly complex, a really nicely balanced wine. And like I said, I like Merlot from Tuscany. A really nice little wine, the San Paolo Mezzopane. All right, and then next up, the Brunello di Montalcino, the greatest wine made in Tuscany. You know what? It was the greatest wine in this lineup. Really nice. Lovely concentration. 04 vintage is a phenomenal vintage from Montalcino. You want these 04 Brunellos in your cellar if you like Brunello di Montalcino. All right, folks, that's what I had to drink yesterday. I'm your host, Andrew Lampasone, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying remember, always drink the good stuff first.